right. Do you guys want to go ahead and start? Perfect. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this Sunday. This is going to be the Volleyball Austin Town Hall. This is something we've done in past years. They used to be in person, and it was kind of just like an open forum for discussion and feedback. But it's been a while, so we wanted to get back to doing this, reconnect with the players, and just kind of give you guys an update on how things are going behind the scenes. This will be about an hour presentation, maybe less, depending on the number of questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Paul is going to be moderating that, and we'll get to those at the end. We're also recording this presentation, and we'll get it either posted on our website or on our socials in some way, so you guys can access it after, or if you have friends that weren't able to attend, feel free to let them know. So Volleyball Austin is the league in Central Texas. We're geared towards offering the LGBTQIA+ community and our straight allies the opportunity to experience and enjoy volleyball in an inclusive and affirming environment. The board of directors, I think all of us are on the call today, is kind of who help run the league and try to get everything as organized for you guys as possible. On the board, we currently have Michael Segura, who's the commissioner, myself, Isabella. I'm one of the co-league directors, along with Nelson Lee and Sam Gonzalez. Paul Juarez is our treasurer. We have Sandra as our secretary. Corey Padron is our operations director, and Mark Jordan is marketing and sponsorship director. All right, so we're just going to kind of move into the agenda that we have for you guys today. We're going to go through some of the more technical aspects of the league that I know a lot of people have questions about. We're going to cover ratings, rating sessions and skills, kind of how ratings are calculated, the scores for ratings, and then also substitutions during the season and during playoffs. We'll go over the draft, how captains are selected, the procedure for the draft, and kind of some of the technical aspects of that, the competitive nature of the divisions and that sort of thing. We'll cover schedule, how the schedule gets made, why some teams feel like they always have late games versus early games, and reffing as well. We'll talk about playoffs a little bit, the different styles of tournaments we've had over the last couple of years, being single, double, and consolation, and why we're kind of proceeding in a specific direction with that going forward. And then we'll also briefly talk about socials and the kind of fun things that we do in the league and what we're looking forward to this coming year. All right. So ratings are one of the things that make our league unique in the Austin area. In VBA, the rating sessions are essential because this is a draft league. We have all of our players are assigned a numerical value to your skills, which is based off a rubric created that takes into account NAGVA's definition of skills. NAGVA is the national organization of gay volleyball in the U.S., so that's kind of like a high standard that we try to adhere to as much as we can. The drills that you guys have all done during the rating sessions are designed to maximize the court space that we have and the time allotted, as well as cover a wide range of skill sets. And we understand that the drills aren't always going to capture every aspect of your skills, but they do the best to get an approximation of your skill level, letting the raters see your skills in an organized manner. We always try to do a scrimmage at the end of the rating sessions, which will help raters to kind of cement their scores as they see you putting your skills to use in a game-like setting. We often get feedback from players that ratings should just be evaluated only during like a scrimmage type setting or only during a game type setting. But there's a lot of reasons, logistical reasons why that wouldn't work. We would need to somehow guarantee that everyone who that player is scrimmaging with is like at the same skill level, because that's one of the ways you can gauge that. Another issue with a scrimmage only rating session would be that we would not get an accurate representation of someone's overall skill if they only play a specific position. This is important because throughout someone's volleyball career, or even just if you're a versatile player, people's positions can change, and the value assigned to someone's skill would not reflect their changed registration. So, for instance, if you're a hitter that is uh, doesn't often pass, like if you're a middle, if you often play middle during a scrimmage or during a game, and you don't often pass, then the raters would not be able to see your passing skill in a scrimmage only session, for example. Um, we also put on uh, every season, we try to put on a skills clinic, which is also usually a skills and roughing clinic. And we have some exciting developments for that this coming year. On the skills side, we're hoping to kind of make more robust skills clinics, perhaps position specific skills clinics. So be on the lookout for that stuff going forward. Perfect. Great. So the draft is, again, one of the things that makes Volleyball Austin unique, and kind of the first step of getting a season ready, um, in terms of the draft is captain selection. The captains are super important because they're the board's main point of contact with the team. So it's important that there's trust there and that the captains that are chosen are treating their teams well and communicating well with their teams. Captains have certain duties during the season that they need to manage, which is why, again, we take it seriously. Um, just a couple of those duties that captains have, they're required for to communicate with their team, ensure that everyone gets their jerseys, make sure your team knows if they're reffing or playing that week. Um, Captains also have the responsibility of submitting the awards and nominations each week, which is something I think that a lot of teams don't know about. So be nice to your captains because they do a lot of work usually. So how we select captains though is when you register for the season, there's kind of a drop down menu or a checkbox that asks if you'd like to captain. You can select yes, no, or possibly. So we pull that list from the players registered. From there, we filter out anyone who's its first time playing with us for that season because we just want to make sure that the captains kind of know how the league runs in general. From that list, we'll then look at if there are any returning captains, and then we'll also look at the player surveys from the previous seasons to ensure that the players for that captain didn't have any negative feedback or didn't have any issues, because we obviously don't want to bring back captains who treated their teams badly or caused drama or anything like that. Um, Another important thing for the captains is that they're in the top 50% of the division that they're going to be a captain for. We just want to ensure that captains have a skill to not necessarily coach their team, but like understand how to help out certain players if they don't understand rotations or if they need assistance, just kind of like with the skill aspect of volleyball. So that's why we want captains to be kind of in the upper portion as far as their rating goes for the season. And generally, we like for the captains to, uh, when you guys register for the season, you can select like what division you'd prefer to play in. So if a player says they'd prefer to play in advance, but they've never played in advance before, we probably wouldn't have them be a captain in advance for that season. And another aspect of captain selection is that not everyone meets all of these requirements. So, and we're often in a season short on people who are willing to captain because, like I said, it is kind of a lot of work. So, at the board's discretions, these qualifications can be flexible. Um, Ultimately, the most important thing is that captains are kind to their team, make sure everyone has fun, and so those are kind of the biggest and most important aspects of captain selection. Next slide. Great. The schedule for the season, we after the draft, we use a program called League Apps. This is what you guys might not know it as League Apps, but like the Volleyball Austin website is hosted by another like website that's called League Apps, and this is a really great tool. It's not perfect, but it does a good job of helping to automate creating the schedule, especially since we now are growing and have so many teams in the league. This is if you're a captain, you've probably noticed before. We usually will generate the schedule and we'll post it in the captains group or like let y'all know that the schedule's been posted online. And we do that before sending out a whole email because oftentimes, not often, but every once in a while, there will be an error where like you're scheduled to ref on a day where you're not playing, or you're scheduled to ref and play at the same time. And that's because sometimes the League Apps has issues with the formula, and the refing portion of the schedule is done by hand. So we do our best, but every once in a while we have an oversight. Additionally, you guys will notice sometimes depending on the number of teams in a division, especially if there's an odd number of teams in a division, like if we have 11 teams in social or intermediate or something like that, or 5 teams in elite or advanced, that's what creates the buys in a schedule where you skip a week, or you might have an instance where you have a double header, like 2 games on the same day. This is kind of we do our best to manage this and make it fair, but again, that's kind of just the nature of having an odd number of teams in a division. And League Apps itself doesn't have a schedule balancer, so we do our best manually to just see if there's teams that seem to have unfair schedules, but it's hard with the number of teams we have in the division or in the league now. The number of games in the season is determines the buys. We generally try not to have an odd number of games in the season just because it allows everyone to play every week, and eliminates buys and double headers if we can. As I mentioned before, the reffing schedule is done by hand. We generally try to have a team either come early to ref and then play, or stay late and play and ref. That's the ideal situation, so you're not having to stick around longer than 2 hours. If you ever have to ref and then wait and then play, or vice versa, it's because we really do try to avoid that from being the case. But sometimes moving the schedule around multiple times, redoing the reffing multiple times, it can be really tricky, especially if there are odd number of teams in that division. Once the schedule is created in League Apps, we export it to Excel, and then kind of manipulate the times and dates, do the reffing to make everything as even as we can, and then we re-upload it to the website. As you guys all know, the league is self-reffed. We get a lot of feedback about reffing every season, and we do take that to heart. But the most cost-effective way to run the league is as a self-reffed league. We understand that not everyone is a professional ref, which is fine, but we do also provide a reffing clinic every season to brush up on rules and expectations. And based on player surveys, I think this is just from this last season, about 23% of players have a negative opinion of how the reffing went that season. However, out of those 23% of players who had a negative experience, 100% of them did not attend a reffing clinic. So that's just to say, like, we know everyone's doing their best, but we also need you guys to attend these clinics to get better at reffing because there's only so much that we can do. And reffing is very important, even though it's not super glamorous. Our reffing clinics are always led by a certified USAV ref teacher. If you guys have been, Rhiannon is usually the reffing guru, and she's incredible, super knowledgeable. Really, she makes reffing really easy to understand, I think. And we have a reffing clinic coming up this season. I think I saw a date somewhere. February 11th, and I don't think we have an event yet for that on the website, but we'll get that posted. Another really important thing is that you guys respect the refs in the game. I know, like, I myself have had instances of players like yelling at me while I'm reffing, and like that just makes the whole experience so much worse. A lot of people, especially if you're up reffing, it might be your first time doing it, or like sometimes plays are just tricky to call. And so it is the up refs, ultimately their call to make a judgment. And we understand that as a player, you can get heated if you disagree, but ultimately, we just want everyone to respect each other and try to be a nice person to your refs. There are a couple of options we're looking at going forward to try to make reffing a little bit better. We still need to kind of discuss those internally, but be on the lookout for updates for reffing this year. And then I think, yeah, Sam can talk about playoffs. All right. Socials are something we try to do in the league, so we can all get together, hang out. It's also one of the aspects on the end of season surveys that is one of the most requested items and one of the areas that we think we can improve the most easily and effectively. With that being said, the amount of responses about wanting more socials does not always correlate with the attendance of people who actually go to those socials. I feel like we have had some pretty successful events in the past, but it is a bummer when we put on a social and there's not a great turnout. But that's not going to dishearten us because with the new board members we've added Mark and Corey and Nelson recently. We really think that we can make these socials more regular and really get a great turnout for them. We know VBA is a nexus, so we want to continue to provide opportunities for everyone to get together, to bro out, hoe out, kiki, or slay the house down boots. We want to provide a safe and affirming atmosphere, but don't get crazy. So socials, be on the lookout. We don't have anything. Well, we have our uniform social, I guess, coming up before the season, but we don't have anything. We have ideas, but nothing scheduled yet. So keep an eye out for that.
Bella, I missed that first part. Could you say that again for me?
It's in the recording, so you can listen back. Great. And then the last slide we have is just Q&A. I don't know if we got any questions, but if you have any questions that you want to ask, throw them in the chat, and we can finish up answering those.